God is good. Not just good like a good day or good like a good sandwich. Not just good like a car that looks good or drives good. But God is good, as in morally good, completely perfect in everything he says, does, and thinks. He's God. He always was, and he always will be. And that's something we can't quite wrap our minds around, namely because we don't live on this earth for eternity. We haven't experienced eternity yet, but we will. And yet, when you try to conceive it in your mind, when you make a picture of it and then try to live that reality out in your brain, actually living on and on forever and ever, it blows your mind. And yet, we were made to live for eternity. You've heard of the word holy, right? It means to be set apart, to be different. God is holy. He's distinct from his creation, separate from time and space, above everything he's created. And he's not just holy. God is holy, holy, holy. That's what the angels call him, because of who he is. There's no darkness, no evil, and no compromise in him. He's God. And God, who has been from eternity, created everything out of nothing. People, angels, plants, the earth, the sky, seas, even space, even time. We can't even make a sandwich without lifting a finger. But all God had to do was speak, and everything came into existence. Everything that was and is, including humanity, including the first two humans, Adam and Eve. And when God made them, he made them good. Adam and Eve were holy creatures too. And God put them in a garden to take care of it and to keep it, and to take care of the rest of the world as well. And Adam and Eve were supposed to be God's representatives on the earth. God told them to rule over the earth like he ruled over them. And Adam and Eve were happy. They had everything they needed. Now, we don't know how long Adam and Eve were in the garden, but we do know that it must have been for some time, because they got used to hearing God's voice. God walked with them. God talked with them. They had fellowship with God every day. That's friendship with God every day. And there was no fear, no pain, and no sickness. Because in the presence of God, none of that existed. Now God gave Adam and Eve one negative command. He told them not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and he told them that if they did, they would die. Now a negative command isn't a bad command. A negative command is a command not to do something. A negative command today would be, don't run in the road when the light is green, with the consequence being you could get hit by a car. Now, I don't know how long Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, but I like to think it must have been for some time, because they got used to hearing God's voice. But they were tricked, tempted. They were deceived by the devil, a fallen angel, Lucifer, who lied to them and told them, if you eat this fruit, you'll be like God. Now you might be wondering, why was there a fallen angel in the Garden of Eden? Especially if angels are supposed to be good and angelic. Well, the angels must have had free will too, because before there was a human rebellion with Adam and Eve, there was an angelic rebellion. And we don't know how long the angels existed before they rebelled, but we do know that they are in the very near presence of God. And because of that, when they rebelled, the price was steeper. The cost was greater, because they knew God. In fact, the angels were closer to God at that point in history than any human had ever been up to that point. Some say it was a third of the angels who rebelled against God. But regardless, because they knew him, their penalty was greater. Their disobedience had a higher cost. Now with Adam and Eve, they disobeyed God too, but they didn't understand what they'd done. They knew they were wrong, but they couldn't understand the cost of what it would bring on them and the rest of humanity. And all because of the lie, all because of the words, "You will be like God." And that's the craziest part about all this, is that they were already like God. They didn't need the devil to give them what they already had. They were pure, they were sinless, they were good, they were holy. They were in communion with God. They had his heart, and they had everything they needed. But they chose to listen to the devil instead of listening to the words of God, the law of God, the love of God. And because of that, because they chose to side with the devil, they received the only thing the devil had to give: sin and death. The devil can't give life. He's separate from the source of life. God is the source of all living, all life. He gave Adam and Eve physical and spiritual life. He's the one who held them together. But the devil, because he's separate from the source of life, he doesn't have the ability, the authority, or even the power to offer life. Only God can give life. So now, instead of life, Adam and Eve received death and a new master. Now, the Bible talks a lot about sin. Sin is anything that we do outside of God and his commandments. Anything we do against God or his commandments. Now, Romans chapter 6, verse 23 says that the wages of sin is death. The fruit of sin is death. And death is a condition. Death is a state of being. It's the state of being outside of God. And because death is the opposite of life, opposite of the source of life, it can only produce more death. Death rots. Death corrupts. It destroys. It decays. It breaks. And it doesn't build back. That's what death does. And death demands payment. And the price of death is a life. And it's a horrible exchange because for human bodies, that means blood. Adam and Eve had chosen the devil, so they chose death to be their master. And death demanded their lives. But God was merciful. God wanted Adam and Eve to live because he loved them. And so, he clothed them with animal skins and instituted the sacrificial system.